Welcome, I'm Cami, creator of the blog Tidbits, and today marks the beginning of a new series that I want to call Tuesday Tidbits. So I hope to just bring you more bite-sized, condensed pieces of content, hopefully every Tuesday, where I'm just going to share these quick tips and ideas that I use, and then just hopefully inspire you as the keeper of your home. So today I want to talk to you about how to freeze eggs and preserve them that way. So this thought came to me as I was popping out these frozen eggs that I had frozen in this silicone mold. They're really easy to just pop out and put in a baggie and then store them in the freezer. So I thought I would share quickly with you a little bit about how to preserve eggs in the freezer. So real quick, why would you want to freeze or preserve eggs? I can think of a few reasons. One, you might be tired of bugging your neighbor for an egg every time you need one and you're in the middle of baking something and realize you don't have enough eggs. That's happened to us more occasions than I care to admit. You also might have backyard chickens and you are familiar with the feast or famine way of life that this is. So there are times when your backyard hens are busy at work and you have more eggs than you know what to do with. And then of course, there are times when those hens are resting. So it's a really great idea when you have plenty to preserve them in the freezer so that you can have eggs when they are not laying them without having to buy or supplement from the store. Another reason is you may want to prepare for a time where there might be egg shortages. That's actually a real harsh reality for my area right now. So maybe this is also why this is on my mind to share with you. So some really great reasons to preserve some eggs for when you may not be able to get fresh eggs from your home or from the store. Now, I've heard of 3 of the most common ways to preserve eggs. One is called water glassing. Have you ever heard of that? Now, I think that's a great one. You're actually preserving a fresh egg, but the downside of that is you do need like farm fresh eggs. They can't be more than a day old and they cannot be washed to take off that protective liner on the eggs. So you can water glass if you have that situation. You can also dehydrate eggs, or I think freeze dry them. Let me just say I've tried those and they're yucky. So that's not my ideal method of preserving eggs, but it is a good way to preserve eggs if you're wanting like a long-term shelf-stable product. So you can buy dehydrated eggs for emergency storage, but that's not kind of the ideal day-to-day way, I think, to preserve eggs. So this brings me to freezing, which I think is hands down the best way to preserve taste and texture, and it's really the easiest. So 2 ways I want to tell you today about how I like to freeze eggs. So one I already alluded to is to get like a mold. A silicone mold is nice because they pop right out. You can use muffin tins, and you just kind of maybe, and since they don't pop out quite as easily, you can just kind of run the bottom of the muffin tin in water and then you can kind of get it out easier that way. This method is great if you want exactly 1 egg at a time. You're freezing each egg individually and separately so that then you can use it as 1 whole egg later on. So this method works great for that. Okay, I think I'll actually demo this for you real quick. So you'll take an egg, and I like to put it inside of a glass jar first, and then, let me wash my hands real quick. Then I would recommend you add just like a pinch of salt. Technically speaking, about 1/8 of a teaspoon per egg. And I like to do it separately inside like a liquid glass measuring cup so that I can whip it better. It's really hard to whip the egg once you've got it in the mold. So once that's whipped just a tiny bit, then I like to just pour it inside the mold, and then I'll do that for the whole thing. Stick it in the freezer for about 4 to 6 hours. Then you can pop them inside of a Ziploc bag, or if you have like airtight bags or ways to get all the air out, that's great. Okay, the second way I like to freeze eggs is in bigger batches. And I have about probably almost a dozen eggs in here. And I blend them all up. You can also whisk them, but it's really quick and easy to do just inside of a blender and gets it really smooth and even. And then you just pour it inside of a glass jar. I'll probably want to get a spatula and get the rest of that foamy stuff out. But you'll put it in a glass jar and then stick this, oh, we need salt. I forgot to mention to you what the salt is for. The salt will actually help the texture and taste of the egg to kind of maintain what we're used to in a fresh egg. So I would mix that up and then stick that in the freezer. This is a great method if you know that you're going to be that you eat about a dozen eggs a week, or you know that you'll do like large batches of scrambled eggs. So then you would thaw the entire jar of this batch of eggs and use it that way. Now, you will be using 1/4 of a cup per egg. So if you have like a baked good or something, it calls for an egg, you would get 1/4 of a cup of this. Or if you're freezing them individually, that makes for an easier transfer. So I would say the biggest downside to freezing eggs is the fact that you kind of have to think ahead and make sure you thaw them. I mean, this is going to take a while. You want to thaw it in the fridge for sure, but you won't be able to pull this out last minute and thaw it for a recipe because you can't heat the eggs up, or that's going to cook them. So you've really got to think ahead about how you're going to thaw this. So if you want to pull out a jar in the winter months and you don't have fresh eggs, and make sure every Sunday you thaw a jar for the week, that makes this big batching a really great option. But if you feel like you're going to just need more last minute stuff, freezing them individually makes for a much quicker thawing process. Again, you wouldn't ever want to stick these eggs into the microwave to thaw them. You're going to end up with a rubbery cooked egg, which will not taste good or work good for any recipe. Now, you can use frozen eggs almost exactly like you would use fresh eggs. I would say the only thing that wouldn't be the same would be like a fresh fried egg, but you could do omelets, you could do scrambled eggs really easy, you could use it in baked goods and in recipes, and so freezing works, I would say, better than the other methods because of how well it transfers into how you would normally use an egg that was fresh. Okay, one last thing you might want to know is that frozen eggs can last up to a year in your freezer, but they're going to be the most fresh if you can use it within 4 months. I think that's all I wanted to share. I hope you enjoyed this Tuesday tidbits, and I will also share this content on the blog. If you want to read through it, save it, share it, anything like that, you can check out the link below for the direct link to my blog post. I will also link below for any of the things I shared here, my favorite blender that's super affordable, jars and lids, the silicone mold, any of these products I will also link to for you if you're curious. All right, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and my newsletter so that I can send you more inspiration for the keeper of the home. Talk soon.